Hello and welcome to another episode of Feeding Fatty. This is Roy.
This is Terry.
So we are the podcast that's chronicling our journey, my journey through wellness, trying to get healthy, lose some weight. And, we talk about what's going on in our life some, and we also have guests from time to time. And today is no different. We've got Joshua with us. Terry, I'll let you introduce him.
Yeah, Josh Kemble is an executive chef and credentialed teacher for the culinary arts. He specializes in pairings, particularly pairing music and food and beverage. He's been singing in a punk rock band since he was 17 and has helped other bands and musicians write and record their songs. And he loves both industries. He hosts a podcast called Family, Food, and Music is Life, yes? And they talk to people in both, either or both food service and music industries and how the two intersect. Josh, thank you for coming on to the show. We welcome you and are excited to talk to you about all these pairings with food and drink and all of that.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I was thinking as the intro music was going, dang, we should have Josh jazz us up with some punk rock stuff.
Yeah, that'd be fun. But I like that song too. The one you had was pretty fun.
Yeah, we try to find something a little bit whimsical, but yeah. So talk about. I mean, I know your love for food and music kind of put you in this space, but tell us a little bit. Number one, about how you got here. A lot of us, and I think we've had this discussion prior that I started out going to some wine tastings and wine pairings, and after about 3-4 is like, to me, my palate's not that delicate, so it all tasted the same. But I tell you where I had fun was with beer, because there's just so much beer out there now, but we didn't have that musical element. So I think it's a kind of cool idea to think about not only the food and the drink, but also putting some good music with it. So how did you put all this together and end up here?
I think probably started when I was learning how to cook as a kid. With being my grandparents were always cooking in the kitchen, and they also always had music playing.
Okay.
So it's probably always just been a sensory, almost like a sensory pairing from when I was first learning how to cook. There was also singing happening at the same time and dancing all at the same time in the kitchen. Both of my grandparents, these are my Mexican grandparents.
Yeah, cool.
And I was always in the kitchen with them because I was always, at their side. And my grandfather had a farm with, animals and stuff like that. So there was always just music playing no matter what they were doing. So the activity of life was always paired with music already.
Yeah.
And then, we would eat with music. We would go to parties and there'd be music playing. So it was always just a sensory experience to have those things together. And I think if you go to those restaurants, any restaurant, you go to a coffee shop, they're probably playing music.
For sure.
There's a certain pairing that we're maybe not aware of at all times,
Yeah, no, I didn't even think about that, but you're right. Usually there's some little background music going on.
Yeah. And if there's not, maybe it's awkward. It's too quiet. You're gonna have to hear each other talk to each.
And then you hear everybody eating, crunching down the street.
Yeah,
scraping of the forks
on the plates. So exactly. So it's a good thing to do it, because also it's a little bit fun. It's fun to do it together to kind of figure out what goes with what. So it's not just your average run-of-the-mill tasting experience that most people have had at one point or another, whether it's sipping wine or sipping coffee. One of my favorite ones that I've done recently was actually with a Texas bourbon company, Garrison Brothers, where they came out here and they brought their big old cowboy hats, their 10-gallon hats, and they were telling everyone how bourbon in Texas is made. And, we paired food with it, and it was just a good time.
Awesome. Yeah. So where do you even start? I mean, it doesn't matter if it's beer, bourbon, wine, but do you start with the drink? Do you start with the food? And then how do you add the music in on top of that?
Sometimes it starts with the music, actually. I think it depends on how you're inspired first. Okay. Whether it's, if you hear something and you're like, oh, wow, this reminds me of taking a trip to Hawaii, and we went to this place, and there was a there was this band playing on the cliffside and we were drinking these drinks or having this good food or even just having a good experience with the music. And you say, I could imagine like relaxing in my backyard, listening to this music, having my favorite coffee in the morning or cocktail at night or whatever the case may be, whatever you do or don't enjoy. But so sometimes it starts with the music in that sense. And then sometimes it can be like the food experience. Wow. Some people can't have peanut butter and jelly sandwich or cookies without a cold glass of milk.
Yeah.
Like there's automatic pairings that you think are, what's it called? You have to have them. It's a guarantee that you're going to have milk if you're going to have cookies.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be like that, but it's good if it is.
But it makes sense. It
makes sense to your brain growing up as mac and cheese, some certain things that go together, they don't have to be that way, but it's just the way that it works.
Yeah.
So you take that pairing and you say, can we do a different kind of cheese with the mac and cheese? Can we do a different kind of jelly on the peanut orange? So you start playing with it and then you expand from there. And then you pair different kinds of, for example, coffees with different breakfast foods or different sandwiches with that milk, or, you can play around with whatever.
Yeah.
Take it from the experiences that you may or may not already know. Texas barbecue, everyone has this idea of what that should be.
Yes.
There's like the Bible of, Texas barbecue right there. And then you kind of do pairings based around that. So it's all thematic, if you want it to be. Yeah. It has to make sense to some degree, but there also has to be a sense of showing the person enjoying your pairing, like why it works, because it's so crazy that it works.
Yeah.
It's always, sometimes it's crazy.
Yeah, and I've got a good example of that. We, like I said, used to go to a place that we did the wine pairings for a long time, and it just got boring. So the chef started doing the different beers, and one of the things that he took was he had, I don't like dark beer. I like lighter colored beer, but he took this dark vanilla beer and he paired it with a like a deep dark chocolate cupcake with sea salt on the top of it. And I wouldn't have thought I would have liked that either, but it was amazing. When you had those two together, it just tasted, it changed the texture and the taste of both of them, where the beer was actually good and this chocolate cupcake, because if I'd eaten a cupcake by itself, it was way too chocolatey, and it just, I don't like that much. So, but anyway, I think it's just interesting the way that it, the different tastes kind of meld in our mouth to make something we probably wouldn't even enjoy to something we really like.
Exactly. Yeah, you might not like you said, it's not about them separately, it's about them together, and they should elevate each other on your palate.
Right.
And I kind of teach people when we're doing the pairings, I use it as an educational experience too. So you're trying to use all 5, maybe even 6 senses when you're doing the pairing. So you got to look at your drink, and you're going to touch the glass, and you're going to smell everything and taste everything, see everything. You could even listen if it's a beer, for the carbonation. So you want to make it a full sensory experience, so that it evokes everything from either your memories from the past. If we're doing something that's like, say, like a Girl Scout cookie pairing, or, if it's something fun, or especially with Texas barbecue, because there's all the smoke and all the flavors of that, just the inherent, history of the thing that we're trying to portray on the plate or on the menu. So we explain every dish, we explain every course, every pairings. I could do it with a beverage maker, whether that's coffee, tea, liquor, whatever, beer, wine, like you said. Yeah. I do love there's some really good beers coming out of Texas these days. And so we've done some beer dinners with some of those beers as well. And it just has to, the beverage and the food should elevate each other. And then you add music into that layer, another layer of sensory, you could say sensory overload to some degree, but you add another layer to that, and it's going to make the pairing experience that much more unique and memorable. And, it could be the highlight of the menu if there's a perfect song with this perfect pairing or whatever,
Exactly.
Could be really awesome for some people. Some people are like, I didn't like that one. And maybe it was because they didn't like the way the music sounded with, whatever.
Yeah.
So it all has to work together.
It should, yeah.
So I'm very curious. I am old school punk rock, so I'm thinking, Ramones and the B-52s before Love Shack, So bands like that, the Clash, Sex Pistols, all of that. So what kind of food would go with punk rock?
Oh, that's a really good question. So my first experience with the genre of punk was the Clash. Back in, I heard it on the radio. I think they started getting radio play in California in like 79, 80, around there. I heard it on the radio. I was like, what is this? And my uncle, he redid cars, and we drove around cool looking old cars around town and stuff like that. So he would restore old cars, and they had old stereos, but they would always get radio. And so we're cruising around, lowrider cruising around the city, and the Clash comes on. And so we're one of the only like lowrider cars cruising through, not playing oldies, just playing the Clash. And I'm like, what is this? Because I'm used to hearing other music coming out of his stereo. And he's like, oh, that's punk rock. This the band, the Clash. Because there wasn't a lot of that on the radio, right? And so I had already started associating kind of that music with my experiences in the Mexican culture, because we were driving to a backyard barbecue, where we're going to have a bunch of carne asada, steaks and tortillas and all this stuff. So I had already started doing some kind of, I wasn't trying to bear it, but I was already doing those pairings. So when I hear the Clash or some of those older punk rock bands from my life, they were like, I learned about those bands a little bit later in my punk rock career, actually, after I really found out who the Clash was and what they stood for and all this stuff. Started learning about, because they have a lot to say about government and politics and rebelling and being yourself and speaking up for the lesser person and stuff like that. So in that vein of punk rock, I really latched onto that. And then the more you get into punk rock ethos and values and stuff like that, it's more like, oh, we have a lot to learn as a society about major corporations and big food and small farms, and learning about like what Cesar Chavez did for the farmers in California, and what the heck the Clash was actually talking about when they're talking about the stuff that they were talking about in England and coming to America and all this stuff. And I think that so a good food pairing with punk rock would be anything that's kind of against the norm, anything against McDonald's, anything against mainstream food, or like like I said, corporate, like Tyson and Monsanto and Conagra and those kind of things. So to me, being a punk rock chef, is being able to make your own menu or play off of those things that people know. Like I said, for example, a Big Mac, and you make your own thing, and that's punk rock, because you're taking the established, like they always, punk rock's always like anti-establishment, right?
Right.
You take the established, like say McDonald's, for example. I hate giving them shout outs, but or whatever company, big corporation, but everyone knows McDonald's because they're worldwide.
Right.
So you take their food and you make a play on it. We do a whole McDonald's inspired menu, and it's punk rock. It's not the Big Mac. It's whatever we do, but it's like, organic produce, grass-fed beef, homemade buns. Technically the way McDonald's started was like that. Yeah. And then they started growing and growing and growing. So yeah, in the punk rock spirit of things, how big can you get and still be punk rock, or
yes.
how much can you grow without hurting yourself or your fans or whatever,
Yeah. Okay.
So to answer your question, it'd be any kind of food that's anti-establishment, I guess would work.
That makes tons of sense.
So you brought up something good. Memory is, things that we relate to when that song was popular or when we were younger and things. So like if you were going to start putting a menu together, do you kind of rely on that experience that you had to think about, when I was listening to the Clash, we were going to the backyard barbecue, so that's pretty cool? Or do you think about, now I've eaten this food before and it kind of has that texture and flavor, it may go good with this? Because that's what I don't really like I said, my palate is not that delicate, so I'm not the right guy to be talking about it. But
he eats just everything I cook. That's why.
Exactly. But thinking about just the different things that may even go together, and I guess that's even probably the fun part of your job and getting to do that is I guess you do a lot of taste testing to see how this goes, and
yeah. We call it quality control, right?
Yeah.
right. Because we're here in San Diego. Some people call it the craft beer capital of the world, and I have so many really good breweries and wineries around my kitchen, around my house, around the county, around the whole area, right?
Right.
So we want to figure out what tastes the best with what, right? So I mean, you can have an idea, like once you do the pairing, like your friend did the pairing with that certain beer and that certain cupcake.
Yeah.
And you could do something like that again and make it a little bit different, or use a little different. I mean, a different beer company that has a similar beer and put it in there. But the memory part of it is definitely a strong way to. I mean, I think we eat with our memories sometimes, and we eat with our eyes first. As a saying that we talk about in the kitchen when we're plating the food all beautifully or whatever. And if you have an experience at a restaurant or a wedding or an event or anything like that, I think, and this, you could both correct me if I'm wrong, but more people talk about a negative experience with food than they do a positive one.
Yeah.
Like, if, oh my gosh, the food was, or the one thing that you remember at a wedding besides the actual marriage is the food.
Yeah.
Like whether
Chicken
it's awesome,
was rubbery.
this is the best food I ever had, or whoa, everybody got sick from the food, and that's all we talk about now.
Yeah.
No, there's a scientific evidence on that people that have a bad experience will tell 8 people, and somebody just told me that number's up to 12 now, and if you have a good experience, you're lucky if you tell one person. So yeah, definitely the bad makes the rounds quicker. Exactly.
Especially in the days now of Yelp and other tattletale websites or websites that were meant to help other businesses have now just become like a complaint forum,
right,
as it were. That can hinder the businesses, at least of an independent chef or food truck or whatever. So the memory part of it is almost like some people are not even relying on the memories anymore, because they'll just go to Yelp to look for something, and too many negative reviews, I'm not going to go there and check it out myself.
Just take somebody's word that they don't even know.
Exactly. So that is part of it. But if you can think of, say, your favorite song or whatever, you might even have memories associated with that, where you were cruising around in your car eating something and drinking something with your friends, automatically, without even having a chef's mind behind it. You might be like, oh yeah, we used to go to this place and drink the actual Texas Dr. Pepper and like do this stuff, or
it's funny you said
to Aaron.
I was just saying about that. There used to be we were I was talking about one of my first business experiences. Me and a friend of mine, when we were like 14, we sold what we cleaned out of barns for fertilizer. But it's funny you mention that, because that was kind of our reward. Was the 7-Eleven had a 2 for 2 hot dogs and a Dr. Pepper for 50 cents. Oh my God, that sounds terrible. But anyway, so thinking about that thing. Anyway, the memory of that.
Back in my day.
So the memory of those hot dogs and us being out, hauling that fertilizer around, that it does go together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now, hopefully, when you think about hot dogs, you're thinking about fertilizer.
Right, exactly.
That's what I'm thinking. Fertilizer and hot dog.
I do. And I mean, most chefs will agree, no matter how healthy you are or what you've gone through in your eating career in life or whatever, sometimes we just love a late night junk food thing, like we'll go to a taqueria that's open till 2 a.m. or whatever, just because we're making good food all day long for hundreds of people. I just want a taco.
And you want somebody else to make it.
There's nothing wrong with it, but I just want to come home and put food in a tortilla and eat it, with no plate.
Simple,
whatever,
that's what I like too, though. Simple is good, and that, we have that discussion all the time, because Terry's always trying to outdo herself and make something that's more fancier than the last time. I'm like, you know what? Simple can be good, and overcomplicating it, and that, that's something the chef that I had mentioned earlier. That's something that me and him had a conversation about, because, we had what I would call some snooty people at the wine event. And, they'd get on to him about this or that. And, when he came over to the beer crowd, I'm like, you know what? Take a chance and gamble, because you know what? If this isn't any good, there's a McDonald's or a Taco Bell on the way home. It's not like we're going to die, and we're not going to starve to death. But I think that's how these creations, I think that's the best creations, is when somebody really steps out there and takes a chance on the food, the drink, the music.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a kind of it's a fun way for brewers and winemakers and chefs, distillers. It's a fun way for people to kind of show off the stuff that they've been making, or it's a fun way to experiment. Sometimes I tell people we're going to have an experimental dinner. Right. It's not going to be your classic pairings that, people who go to the dinners a lot, they kind of know what's going to be there.
Right.
There's always going to be the X amount of courses. It's going to be around this price. So you kind of have to play to them a little bit. Or you talk to those people and say, I need you guys to come to this one because I just really want to try something that I can't try on the general public, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. And especially with something like a music pairing, that's very specialized. It doesn't have to be. It could be very simple. Like, hey, we're just gonna listen to like the Beatles while we're doing this food. Or I had one planned for last year that I'm gonna have to bring back now that we're kind of reopening in California, slowly but surely. Basically, it's like a Metallica themed brunch, right? So heavy metal, and all the food is that we're cooking is based on like food puns based on their song titles.
Oh.
Right? So people. Yeah, so it's not necessarily specifically paired with the music per se, because it's all about the one band.
Yeah.
But it's a theme on the band. Everybody's gonna and we're gonna say it's not snooty. You're gonna come dressed like you're going to a concert, denim vests, whatever you want to wear to a Metallica show.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have brunch, and we're gonna try to get, Metallica has a bourbon, Metallica has a beer. And I'm going to have a friend come and play acoustic Metallica songs on the guitar and whatever. So it's just going to be a fun time, and it's brunch. So Saturday or Sunday morning, whatever. But it's not like other pairings where it's like you go into to a restaurant or whatever, and you have to have your restaurant manners on.
Yeah.
Right. You have to pay, a super high amount of money, and you're going to have the kind of a steak that you might always have or whatever, just at a higher price because it's a pairing. So I like to have fun with it and make that unique experience. So that's kind of one of the musical pairings. It's like I just pick a theme and say, we're just going to make puns out of all their song titles, because they have like over 100 songs. So why not,
Yeah.
Surely there are some puns, and that's awesome.
Oh yeah, just making dad jokes all day long, So
well, when we can get back to it, there's nothing better than going out and listening to a band and having some good food and good drink.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, definitely. It's something we've been longing for.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. We have Stones tickets. We were supposed to see them this time last year. And still, we still don't know anything, which is fine with me. I'm hanging on to them because I've never seen them. I've seen a lot of people, but I've never seen seen them. So if they do it,
that'll probably be fun.
Oh yeah.
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 Yeah. They were supposed to play here in town, actually, at our stadium, but where our baseball and football team used to play, but they actually tore down the stadium because they canceled, at the beginning of everything kind of last spring. They was like, well, the Stones aren't going to play here anymore. Let's just tear down the stadium.
Let's just get rid of it.
Oh my gosh.
So they took it down. It's gone. So
that's a good reason.
Yeah.
Good enough. Yeah. Okay. So we are, we have just started a plant-based diet.
Okay.
So, what kind of you as a chef, you cook with organic and grass-fed whole foods and all of that, yes?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sustainable and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. Sustainable, that's what I was looking for. So I'm just
There's a
kind
whole bunch of words. Yeah.
Yes, there really are. So I'm just kind of throwing stuff together. I'm doing, I've been doing some reading, and we've been doing some interviewing of, I mean, and everything points to plant-based as helping with inflammation and diseases and all.
Yeah.
So, and we're getting older and needing to worry about things like that, which you should do all the time. Then you won't have to worry about it later in life necessarily.
Yeah.
But so what do you have any good ideas for me for like any good quinoa or lentil?
Yeah, so a lot of it's based on, how much of one thing you're trying to get. Like, so it's, even if you're doing a vegan diet or plant-based or keto or any of the diets, you still have to, I believe, you still have to have some kind of balance for your own ecosystem in your body, So if you do too much of what, for a while the fad was Atkins style dieting.
Yeah.
And that's basically, though, if you break it down, though, that's all high cholesterol fat, which is bad for some people to do. It has the benefits of the diet, but then what are the end results? What's your return on investment for doing this diet?
Right.
So for the plant-based and what I mean by the balance is I'm not a vegan person, but I understand the value of having a vegan part of my diet. And at my kitchen, we do all the lunches for this company called Dr. Bronner's. They make all the soaps and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
But they are feeding. We're doing 125 meals a day for them, and they're 100% vegan and organic, right?
Oh, wow.
So we have to think of every single 2 weeks, we have to think of new menu items to feed 125 people every single day. So you take like your basic, say, even the first food item that comes to your head, no matter what kind of diet, when we say, okay, can we do that? Can we do shrimp and grits as a vegan thing? How do we do that? So, or can we do like a clam chowder and turn it vegan? So there's always ways to do it. Not every single thing is a hit, but but there are ways to incorporate those things into your life and cut out, things like, meats that are too fatty or
dairy,
too much dairy,
Mm-hmm.
too much dairy in your diet, too much gluten in your diet, because our bodies are designed a certain way to not really handle. There's a really good argument to have a vegan and plant-based lifestyle, because you may or may not be able to digest that, because you were probably not created to digest that. We started doing that. It's through our own macroevolution as humans, we started digesting animals and animal products and stuff like that out of some necessity, or just the way that America was conquered. It came to America.
Yeah, and that's kind of why, Roy. I mean,
there was just a couple things I was reading, and we've talked about it, because I know, like, beef and meat, it sets heavy on me. Now, I don't, I think we're plant-based. I don't think we're like never ever again. We were talking earlier tonight that, Terry said she may be getting hungry for a piece of fish or something. So, we can go out and have, but we're just kind of like making the focal point more the plant-based. But, I read some material that said, like, a dairy that we should be, it should make people sick. Humans are the only people that drink other animals' milk, and we're the only people that drink milk after infancy, because but they said that was an evolution, that milk was it's very high caloric, so people found a way to use it, to live. And then also some of the shepherds, that's what they had too. So the other thing I read was that our bodies, we are more the omnivore, because we're not totally meat-based, because we don't have the fangs, and our digestive tract is too small. And vice versa. On the plants, our teeth aren't right for that as well, and our digestive system is too short. So, I think some meat or beef or protein is good for us. But it's just we've just read some healthy benefits of that, and also doing some intermittent fasting. So it's just something we're going to give a try to see if it's any value. I think we kind of preach that as well, is that everybody has to find what works for them.
Right.
I know some people that, they're on the keto and they love it, and that's good. Of course, we're not doctors, nutritionists, or dietitians, or anything with the letters behind our name. So all we really report on is kind of what we're trying, what's working for us, and what's not. And anyway, we're just going to see. But
it's all about, you got to add some exercise into the mix too. Like kind of work off whatever is coming into your body. Because I have a lot of vegan and vegetarian friends that still struggle with weight loss or keeping weight on or whatever the case may be, because they're still eating stuff like vegan donuts or cheat. Like they're still eating. They're still getting full all the time and eating high fat, high caloric diets. But just because it's not, meat, or they're ovo-pescatarian, like you said, they eat eggs and fish still. They are not, it's not a balance. Like I was trying to say, it's not, they're not doing exercise. They're not drinking half gallon of water a day. They adhere strictly. And, it doesn't work in every part of the world. I don't think, like having the choice to choose your diet is very awesome and a nice privilege of being an American, I think, because I've traveled a lot. I've traveled all over the continent, and, choosing your diet is so awesome. It's so rad that we get to do that, because when we went to Alaska, I stayed up there for, half a month with one family, and all the kids were responsible for hunting for the family, for meat for the family. Well, think about it though. In Alaska, the northernmost state in our country, right? There's no farmers markets. They don't have the produce that we have here in San Diego. So what do you do for survival and protein like that? Like, you make it happen, right? And you can grow stuff, sure, you can make your own garden, but like it's not the wealth, the bountiful farmland that I have here in Southern California, So they do it that way. And then in southern parts of Mexico, they can't afford to eat meat, so they are vegan by default, right? So they have some really good vegan cuisine in Mexico that a lot of people may or may not know about, but they can make anything into an awesome spread of food with with either the worst parts of the animal in the food, like, they make something good out of it, or they just don't have it at all because you can't afford it. Right. So there's the kind of two extremes of our, and we're sitting here in the middle between those two extremes that I just talked about, I guess, we get to choose because, that's just what's afforded to us. We get to do that. So I have to keep that in my mind, that I have that awareness of that privilege that we get to choose what we eat, which is fortunate. I'm thankful for that,
for sure.
And there's some places even in California, like I lived in San Francisco, we did a food training program in the more impoverished neighborhood up in San Francisco area, and there was not even they call it a food desert. There's nowhere to even buy healthy food. There's like liquor stores and cheap pizza joints and whatever, but there's nowhere to buy farmers market food in that neighborhood. You have to go somewhere else to go to even like a Whole Foods, or the nearest Whole Foods was like a pretty long bus ride from where we were, so it's not accessible.
I think there are a couple of places like that in Dallas as well, aren't there? Dallas, I think every big city has something like that.
Well, and we're lucky in the fact too that some countries, it's like, we get to walk into these nice grocery stores and there is a selection, whereas sometimes some countries you walk in and you take what they have that day. I mean, it's just it's one thing and there is no. So we are definitely lucky that we not only live in this time, but we live in this country because we do have so many choices.
And some people got a big wake up call to that, just because of COVID, because everything was gone. It's like, you go in, just tried to get a couple of things. I mean, who knew toilet paper and all that stuff would be going first? Clorox. I'm still trying to get some spray Clorox.
We got a little smidgen of what other people, I guess, experienced in those. In that sense, I guess, so so I try to keep that in the front of my mind, be aware that we're be aware of my food privilege in a sense, and my son, my son he's allergic to, not allergic, but he's basically allergic to lactose, garlic, and gluten.
Oh, wow.
So I have to be able to, and he's lucky and blessed that I am a chef and I can cook different things for him, because he would be screwed otherwise, like,
yeah. Well,
it's easy to get almond milk and cashew milk and stuff like that or whatever. But he, I have to make him a special dinner that we can all enjoy. I don't want to make like 3 different dinners.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to make like one thing that we can all have. So we do a lot of plant-based cooking here, but I have to be able to make it garlic free and still taste good. No dairy and still taste good.
I was gonna say, I could do
sometimes there's separate ones, but
I could do without the dairy, but the garlic. Oh my gosh, that would be a problem.
Yeah, it's tough. So like if he spends the night at someone else's house, we're like, pizza.
Right. So tell me, so what is the biggest surprise, from from all 3 standpoints, the music, the food, and the beer? What's the I guess your biggest success that you put together and you're like, that was awesome?
Oh, so many, isn't there, Josh?
Oh my gosh.
Too many to choose from.
Let me pull one from, I have a list right here. No, honestly, I feel like aside from being able to have a family, that's a big success, a wife and kids. I think that every time I finish like someone's wedding, I feel like it's a big success.
Yeah.
Because you feed 30 to 150 people all this food, all these courses and dessert, everything start to finish, make their dreams come true, whatever on this night. I feel like that's a good success. I feel like it's a little on a smaller scale, but it's still a big success, is when I can make those non-garlic, non-dairy, non-gluten foods and the whole family is still stoked on the food.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, because sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah. Is there a particular pairing that you've put together that you can remember that just really stood out?
Yeah. The last one that we did was really awesome. We did tri-tip on a big Santa Maria grill, which is a style of cooking out here. It's kind of like Texas barbecue, except in the fact, nobody shoot me, but I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh. It's disclaimer.
Yeah, it's open flame. Yeah, it's a California style of cooking that was invented by rancheros, the Mexican ranchers that were coming up from Mexico through California with all the cows, and they basically cooked over an open fire. And the tri-tip is a cut of meat that you can really only get in it's really only the western states. They don't do it out west of Texas. Maybe not. I don't even know if they do it in Texas, but
yeah, I've never heard.
Because I know you guys are big on brisket,
yeah.
So you don't need much. Yeah, it's a special cut, and I did a whole dinner based around it. Excuse me, and I paired it with one of the local breweries who does. They also do gluten-free beer, and we did a whole dinner and everything was basically, it was really cool because we brought out the huge grill, and everything was cooked on the fire. Everything from the the chicken for the tacos, the tortillas,
cool.
The tri-tip, everything except for the desserts, because my sister's a baker and she didn't want to do her desserts on the fire. But but it was a success in the sense that I was a little scared doing tacos at a beer dinner, because it's not super high end, but you charge a little bit more for a beer dinner, right, than you would for maybe just if I'm selling tacos and beer. Yeah. It's a full dinner. But people who were like taco connoisseurs were there, and they're like, this is the best taco I ever had. The pairing made it so much better.
Awesome.
The pairing is the key. When you and the success comes from when you actually nail the pairing.
Yeah.
Because the beer's already good, the food's already good. Like but the validation comes from when people are like, the pairing made it awesome,
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah.
Did y'all have music? Did you have music there?
At that one wasn't a music pairing per se, but I told them I gave them some ideas of what kind of music should play at that.
Okay.
Like more like up tempo, maybe Mexican inspired punk rock. So bands from Mexico that do rock and roll or punk rock,
cool.
would pair well with that. Yeah.
All right.
It was fun. So and it worked. It worked.
Yeah. So now the next question coming is, what was the biggest flop that you've put together?
Tricky there.
trick question.
Yeah.
The biggest. Well, I think it would be more like, I think that would be more maybe in the music side of things.
Okay.
When if you put out a record and it doesn't do as well as everyone's anticipating or whatever, because like as music trends ebb and flow, and we put out a record and it doesn't sell as much as the previous record or whatever.
Right.
And you change the style a bit. You interrupt the fans' perception of what you think the music should be or whatever. And I see chefs do the same thing too if they put something new on the menu, and it doesn't go over as well. So I think I don't know if it's the biggest flop ever, but like we on that kind of, for example, on that vegan menu, that we have to entertain so many people every single day, 125 people a day, and I put curry on the menu, like just the regular kind of delicious little Thai curry.
Yeah.
And we did it twice, and we got feedback that they said nobody liked it. I was like, huh? Because they liked everything else. And surprised. Well, but it's something that it's funny though, because I make it for weddings, I make it for different events, and it's always like, oh my gosh, this is so good. And then you give it to this one company and they're like, we didn't like it.
Yeah.
So we take it off the menu, but it's such a weird thing because you're used to it being like your go-to.
Yeah.
And so they don't get it anymore. they decided that they're not going to have that, so it feels like a flop in a way. It's like, well, it's hard to ask somebody, what don't you like about it?
Yeah.
They just don't like it.
Well,
you can't.
We've all got different taste and different backgrounds. So, do you find that you put something together? We only have to talk about the curry, but just in general, you put these two things together that you just think, oh man, I knocked that one out of the park. These taste so good together, but then other people's taste is just not where yours was, or has it gotten to the point that when you think it's pretty good, generally the following is pretty good as well?
Yeah, I think that even if it's a three course tasting, and let's say there's like, even if there's 20 people there and it's a smaller one, almost every single person will have a different favorite of the night.
Yeah,
there's like, I really like the way this one with this, or this one with this, or I like the song you put in this course, or whatever. Everyone's gonna pick and choose a different thing. So it's hard to gauge my success or failure on those kind of events sometimes, because like I said, like, it's almost but when the people are at your event in front of you at the table or at a wedding, and you're trying to impress the bride or the bride's mom or whatever the case may be, it's like a living Yelp, right? They're right there.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not like going on the website saying like, oh, what's this restaurant like? Let me find out about their Hawaiian taco special or whatever. They're right there, and they'll just be like, yeah, it wasn't good. I didn't like it or whatever. Or I really liked it. Thank you. I'm going to tell everybody about it. So you wait for that validation, and that's hard to do as an artist or a creator, is to like get that validation from people, or get that constructive criticism or feedback. Hey, just wanted to let you know, I think that blah, blah, I mean, there's ways to do it, and I'm mature, and I can hear people, I can accept people saying, maybe it wasn't as good as your last time or whatever, but if they do it in the right way, because
as long as they're not
chefs are
rude.
Sensitive, baby.
They are, brides especially.
Well, it's like I said before, and I mean it, is that I think we have to encourage our local chefs to take a chance. I mean, we'd all be eating meat, potato, and green beans if people didn't take a chance. So may not be our favorite.
Those aren't bad things, but
no, they're not,
just not the same thing over and over.
We just have to encourage our chefs to take a chance. It may not be our favorite meal, but we got to encourage them to keep trying and coming up with all these different cool things. I mean, that's the other thing, talking about the grocery stores and how plentiful food is. If you just stop and take all the local restaurants that people have around them, in urban areas, there's so many different varieties of food, not only the Mexican, Italian, and different ethnic groups like that, but even within that group, like we've got 2 or 3 Mexican food places that they're just totally different, but they are still good in their own right.
Yeah.
So Anyway,
For sure. And I mean, that's a huge country, so they're everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Different
I mean,
regions.
the cuisine is all over the place, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
It's like Texas barbecue versus Missouri and,
or Kansas City. Yeah.
southern states and California. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. For some
so
reason.
I get that.
Yeah. Tennessee and, I guess Missouri, St. Louis, they all want to have their own barbecue. I don't know. I mean, I'm not that much of a connoisseur. I guess I'll eat it at any of them if it's good. No.
Well, I grew up in Nebraska, and we had some good beef. I'm telling you, this plant-based stuff was very hard for me to say yes to. I mean, it's good, but I did make a really good. I was going to tell you, I made it was really good tempeh bolognese.
Oh my gosh! It
with
was awesome.
spaghetti squash.
Yeah.
And I had never cooked with tempeh before, so I didn't really know what to expect. We've kind of played with some tofu, but it turned out really good. I was proud of myself. That was one good thing.
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah. And you can do a lot of stuff with that.
It's good for the home audience too to, step out there. And like I said, I encourage Terry to take a chance that, we're not going to starve. We'll throw it out, whip something else up. Yeah. It's not a big deal, but she's about 100%. She never misses. So I'm lucky.
He just wants to eat. He knows where his next meal is coming.
Yeah. I mean, if you got to have an adventurous spirit to eat that stuff. So, some of the stuff that people like is already vegetarian based. Grilled cheese sandwich is vegetarian. Mac and cheese is vegetarian for the most part. Not vegan necessarily, but
right.
I guess it depends on when you say plant based. If you're talking like full vegan or vegetarian with most like I said, that balance.
Yeah.
Yes. We're trying to do the full thing
because some of the diets are calorie based also. Like it doesn't matter what you eat, it depends on the calories.
Yeah.
Right.
So like there's all different ways to depends on your own health, your own goals for your health, because I was overweight as a kid, and
we're gonna talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. I mean,
if you want to,
it probably pertains to the title of the.
There you
go.
Right? We need to tie back.
But yeah, baby sir. I think that some of it was, like I said, I don't know about the food desert thing. We were not a rich family by any means, but I think a lot of the food that was brought home was not healthy food. And then it was a tumultuous family situation too. So I think the trauma adds to some of the weight issues with some kids.
Yeah.
Growing up and not having, when your parents are so involved with what's going on in their relationship, they might not see everything that needs to happen for the diet, for the health needs. And a lot of the kids in San Diego and Southern California in different sections, two meals of the day, maybe sometimes 2.5 meals, are coming from the school, not even coming from their house. So so that says a lot about like food and nutrition in the homes and stuff like that. It's like some parents just aren't aware of how much a kid actually needs nutritionally. And there's tons of calories in the house, but it's like, what is it? Twinkies, Otter Pops, Kool-Aid, Big Macs, Happy Meal. I don't want to cook tonight. Let's go get a Happy Meal. Just other bullshit. So I think that people, it's okay every once in a while. Sure, I love In-N-Out Burger. I mean, no, you don't have that in Texas, but
we do.
Yeah, we just.
You got it now.
Yeah.
Big In-N-Out fan.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, everyone loves them for a good reason. It's fresh stuff. It's still fast food. It's still a hamburger.
Yeah.
So if you eat a ton of it, you're gonna get sick. But it's better than other things. So like I said, every once in a while it might have been okay, but when your parents are heavily relying on that to support your nutritional value and our nutritional outcome in your life and stuff like that, it's not. It probably won't end up well for the kids.
Right. Right.
Luckily, I started getting into sports and music and other things so that I could tone it down a little bit, because the coaches don't put up with that.
Yeah.
And then if you're into music, you just can't be, you have to be a little bit healthy to be able to play on stage every night too.
Oh my gosh.
You'll just get sick.
Yeah.
You basically just get sick,
Right.
So yeah, that was a thing I went through.
Yeah. Yeah. And and we were guilty even as adults, it's easy and quick and hitting the drive-throughs, and it's just, it's making a commitment that, we're going to eat at home. And, just, try to cook and try to do all these different things. But it's, it's an easy habit to fall into, unfortunately. And, I can speak from that. That's, why I gained so much weight, is just not only poor eating habits, but poor choices of foods or place to go to. So.
Yeah. And I need chocolate.
Yeah.
I need chocolate. So.
You do. You actually do need chocolate. It's good for your heart.
Yes, it is.
Healthy.
Yes. Oh.
You just have to pick how much you got to pick how much chocolate, right?
And I can just do a little. I can just do a bite and be okay.
It is plant based, so I mean, nothing wrong with that.
That's right.
All right, Josh.
Exactly. Yeah, all the old stuff. Yeah.
Well, any last words before we wrap it up? I know we've gone way long. We appreciate your time and you being.
Tell us.
I don't know.
And tell us the name of your. Tell us the name of your restaurant and your band and all of that too.
Oh, sure. So I work for Harvest Kitchen, and so we're a boutique catering company in San Diego, and we got a food truck, and we go all around the state and stuff like that, wherever food festivals, music festivals, golf tournaments, whatever, weddings. But we're really focused and committed to like grass-fed and organic and local as possible farms and stuff like that. Eating, we don't say healthy. Typically, we say healthful. Healthful, balanced stuff, balanced diet. Because, like I said, we do love a good braised short rib or like a really good juicy burger, but where is it coming from?
Yeah.
And do I know the person that grew this produce? And so I talk to my reps all the time, and how organic, stuff like that. Blah blah blah. It's a whole other topic, right? Yeah. But so Harvest Kitchen, and then so that's where my main chef gig is. And so I do my events based out of there, my pairings and stuff with the local breweries and everything like that. And then my music is. I was in a band called Dogwood for a long time. So we were all over the place with that. I did that full time straight out of high school for about 14 years or so. Yeah. And we put out records and went to Texas a lot, all over Texas, every cool place you could be. And then now I do music called Saint Didicus, which is the patron saint of San Diego. And so I thought that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now I have different things to say now that I'm a dad and seeing the world the way it is now versus when I was in high school and stuff like that.
Things change.
So now that's how I do it now. Yeah, and then I do the podcast, the food and music podcast, because so many people from both of my careers are kind of doing similar things, whether it's musicians who cook or brewers who used to be musicians or people who put on concerts or whatever. So I just wanted to talk to those people and kind of give voices to more women in the industry, because in the music and the food industries, the women have a lesser voice a little bit. They have big voices, but they're not always heard.
Right.
So I kind of wanted to give a platform to more of those people, more of those creators who are kind of helping keep the industry afloat and doing cool things. So yeah, my show coming out tomorrow is with our kind of a local female chef who used to do music, so it's kind of cool doing all this stuff to see, and then hearing people's stories. Really, when I do these shows, I'm like hearing everyone's story and learning how they grew up and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely.
So tell me one more time.
I don't know. My parting words of wisdom is usually just stay safe and be kind to each other.
So tell me one more time about the I love the catcher's mask poster behind you. Is that a
that is
the Padres?
Yeah, it's from the Padres and the Detroit Tigers 1984 World Series.
Nice.
Just a local artist was commissioned to do it. I found it at some thrift store in the corner. Like, oh, we're getting rid of this. I was like, what? Because that was the first time when I was little that the Padres had gone to the World Series.
Yeah.
And they got killed in the World Series, but they still went.
They went.
Yeah.
So so I have this
awesome.
And I don't know. It's just a funky, colorful background.
Yeah, it does.
My screen here.
Roy likes baseball.
But I like baseball a lot. Yeah. So that's fun. That's what it is.
All right, Josh. Well, thanks a lot. Y'all go visit Josh's podcast. Tell how if somebody wanted you to put on a pairing for them out in the San Diego area, how could they reach out? What's your email?
Or the website?
Either through my podcast page, the Family Cast on Instagram, or even just my personal one is Josh Kemb, Kemb. That's my, and then through those two, it kind of links to all my other stuff too. So I got a food page and a music page and a Harvest Kitchen page. So kind of active all over the internet.
Good. Good.
You're everywhere.
All right. Well, y'all go out and visit Josh, see what he's got to offer. Thanks so much for your time. We certainly do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Josh.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
That's going to do it for another episode. You bet. That's going to do it for another episode of Feeding Fatty. Of course, I'm Roy.
I'm Terry.
You can find us at www.feedingfatty.com. We're on all the major social media platforms as well. Video of this interview will go up when the episode goes live. We're on all the major podcast platforms as well, Google, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. If we're not on one that you listen to, please reach out. We'd be glad to add you. So until next time, take care of yourself and take care of your family.
Yeah.